Hi again. Sunday afternoon, sun shining, beautiful day. I saw on the news this morning that this is going to be the hottest day of the year so far. It's only January, so I thought that was quite funny. But it's a nice day anyway. And I've just, to make it even better for me, I've just booked my trip to California. I'm going to California for a couple of weeks later in the year to see my friend Bill, Reverend Bill MacDonald. Check him out on YouTube, his videos and stuff. He's a really interesting guy. And I've always been interested in the old Indian culture, you know, the cowboys and Indians and stuff. So we're going to go up into the mountains, and I think it's going to be an amazing experience. I can't wait for that. And being around Bill for that amount of time will be amazing as well. He's a really spiritual guy, served in Vietnam, and just a really interesting guy. Travelled around India and lived with different gurus, and he's got some amazing stories to tell, which is really what I wanted to talk about today. I was flicking through Facebook earlier because Matty Evans and myself are doing a real combat system course in February, and people are replying we've advertised it through Facebook, so people are coming on and sending me messages and asking me questions. And I was flicking through Facebook and I came across this post, and it was obviously an advert, it was obviously marketing, but the guy was basically saying how I can't remember the figures, but for 20 odd years of his life, he'd lived a crap life, and this had happened and that had happened. And then he realised that the thing holding him back was nothing outside of himself, it was him, which was spoken about lots of times on this site. So he decided to face his fears, face his demons, and he's completely turned his life around, and now he's making mega money, and he wants to help other people to do the same. And I read a few of the replies, obviously, and people came on, and a few people were attacking him, which always puts me off, so I didn't read much of it. I came off it pretty quick because I don't like negative stuff. But basically people were saying, great story, really interesting, shame about the marketing bit at the end, which I get. But what I took from it was the fact that his story was really interesting, and the fact that what he was saying about how he'd faced his demons, he realised it was nothing outside of himself that was holding him back, it was him. I thought that was really good, and we've spoke about that loads of times on these videos, on these pages. But it made me think again about the story. I'm fascinated by people's stories. People fascinate me. I love listening to people's stories. They're really interesting. And for me, working as a therapist, I always, the first thing that I've learned to do is listen to people, because everybody's got an interesting story. I've never met a human being yet that hasn't got an interesting story to tell. And I think it's one of the mistakes that people make. I was talking to a really nice guy yesterday who wants to go into coaching, and I think he'll make a great coach. He watches these videos as well, so he'll know who I'm talking about. But, and he's got a really interesting story. He's done lots of great things. He helps lots of people. But one of the things that came out of the conversation for me when we'd finished and I was reflecting on it was how important it is to be able to listen to other people's stories. It's great that you can inspire people with your story, but when you're working with people and people come to you for help, they want to tell you their story. At first, they don't really care about your story. They want to tell you their story, which, if you understand the process, is actually brilliant, because while they're telling you their story, they're telling you about their lives, they're telling you how they see themselves, they're telling you why they do the things that they do. So it's really important that you listen to their story. One of my favourite quotes, I don't know who said it, but I heard it a long time ago. It said that people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. So for me, when I'm working with people, I always put a massive emphasis on listening to people, and it's harder than it sounds, actually, because there is that part of you that wants to get in and tell them and share your experience. But sometimes it's about sitting back. A lot of times it's about sitting back and letting people tell their stories. And when they're telling you their stories, like I said, they're telling you how they see themselves, why they do the things that they do. So then once you know the story, then you can start, I call it investigating the story. Then you can start investigating the story, and challenging them on their story. Because that happened, did it really mean this? Did it have to mean that? And people don't like that bit. A lot of people don't like that bit. But then at that point, I'm realising actually this person doesn't want to change their story. They're happy in their story, you know, or they're happy in their misery, which might sound odd, but believe me, there's a lot of people out there that won't change their story. They don't want to change their story. They might tell you that they do, but they don't. And secondly, I'm finding out whether they believe that they can change their story or not, which is really important, because if they don't believe that they can change their story, then I've got to work really hard on that and challenge those beliefs. And start giving them examples then of how they can change their story. So the story for me is massive. It's delicious. Often people marinate in their story, but you can change the story. So that's what I liked about the post that this guy put on this morning. Even though it was obviously a marketing post and people picked up on it and started slagging him off, I thought what he said was actually quite good. You know, he changed his story by challenging his belief system, challenging his demons, challenging his fears. In doing that, he's changed his story. And it was almost like a typical, you know, now I'm a millionaire type of thing and I can teach you how to be a millionaire. But for me, it doesn't have to be about that. That doesn't motivate me. You know, money's important. Obviously, we need money. But, you know, it doesn't have to be about money. You know, it can be just about you changing how you feel about yourself, how you see yourself. But you can do that by challenging your story and changing your story. But the story's brilliant. It's really powerful. It's delicious. But it's just a story and you can change it. And that's the message for today. Hopefully I'll speak to you in the week. Have a good Sunday. Have a good weekend.